Hey Wanderers, it's Wednesday evening and today's snippet piece is on interpret. So we're on I. We're already halfway through the week already, can you believe that? So interpret. So for this part of the snippet, what is kind of intended here is that you would take a little time to dig into other resources outside of scripture to work on the question for the week. Now, of course, this week's a little bit funky because our question has to do with the validity of the Bible, and it's hard and honestly kind of illogical to use the Bible to, verify its own validity. So we've already sort of dug into some outside resources. I bet some of you have already gotten there. But for those of you that haven't, I'm going to be listing I already have listed a couple of resources for you to use as a place to start. Of course, you should and could find any number of resources, commentaries, podcasts, sermons on this subject. But I have supplied you with a couple of interesting ones, 2 or 3 that are from a faith-based perspective and a few that are from a not necessarily Christian perspective. I've also, for those of you that have kids, if you are beginning to think, how do I discuss some of these things with my kids? There's a really great series done by Phil Vischer, who is known for being the creator of VeggieTales, and it is called What's in the Bible with Buck Denver, and it's definitely aimed towards kids, but as an adult, I have learned a ton from that series, so I actually included that on my resource list. It is not really available on YouTube. You can get snippets, but you can't get the whole video. And it's like $10 on Amazon for the first 2 episodes that talk about the history of the Bible. Very informative and really fun for kids. I've watched that with my kids today, specifically for this interpret piece. So that is included on there as well. So today's about digging in. I would love it if you would comment below with the resources that you have found, so other wanderers can look into what you're looking into, and you can look into what they are looking into. Okay, so that is today's piece on interpret. I really quickly, in the last couple minutes, want to touch base on tomorrow. I will not be posting a snippet, and since this is our first week, I wanted to clarify a little bit about what tomorrow is intended to be for. It's the pursue and press, so both of the P's in the snippet, that we are doing tomorrow. So pursue is, again, pursuing God in this question and in this conversation, and pressing is listening and being still and letting God talk to you about what he wants to say based on the research that you've done via scripture and your outside resources. So my tips for you on how to do this are, first of all, it doesn't need to be hours long or anything like that. I would set aside a half hour. And then I would spend a little bit of time thinking about your question, reviewing the notes that you've made so far, possibly journaling if you're somebody who uses a journal, or doodling if you're somebody who likes to draw, and just thinking about the questions that you have for God in this process. When you move on to the point of praying, I recommend either having it be completely quiet, like in your car or a quiet corner of your house, somewhere where you're not going to be interrupted, and you can put your phone on silent and face down so you don't know if you get notifications about anything. And then I also recommend that sometimes people like to journal through the process. You don't necessarily have to close your eyes when you're praying, but you can, just so that your head and your heart are in alignment, that you're ready to listen to God. Genuinity is 100% the most important piece in being available for whatever comes. And so I would say maybe 10 minutes of journaling, thinking, and then when you go to the pursue piece, I always ask God to take me from where I am to his presence. And in the beginning, I kind of expected that to be like at his feet at a throne with angels singing, holy, holy, holy. But ultimately, when he takes me on these amazing journeys, he puts me in the funniest places. And I've had visions of myself as a happy grasshopper and as riding horseback, which I am not a horseback rider. My favorite is that he put me inside of a wine decanter, and that's great, even though, I love wine. I just never would have thought God would have put me in a wine decanter, and you'll hear those stories as we go along on our journey. But so pray for God to put you in his presence. And this is the kind of prayer you're praying specifically about this question that we're tackling this week. So, God, what do you have for me in this? What do you want to show me about your God-breathed word? What am I missing from the things that I have read? What should I take and what should I leave? And just kind of filter that through God's lens. And then there's the being quiet part. I set a timer on my phone, excuse me, so that I don't fall asleep. So I recommend, and I set it for 10 minutes, and I just am still and quiet. And then the last piece, which kind of goes along with the T for track, is just to write down what you receive. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys come up with for resources today and for in your pray time tomorrow. Scratchy throat. And I will be back on Friday. So in the meantime, I wish you plentiful discoveries in your journey divine. I'll see you on the next snippet. Good night.